What's going on, everyone? So obviously the Mark Williams and Dalton Knecht situation, them being essentially swapped. Obviously there were other moving parts and components, but for the most part, that was like the center of the package, right? Lakers getting Mark Williams, the Charlotte Hornets getting Dalton Knecht, and then they both had to go back to their respective teams. Mark Williams, at the time of recording this video, still isn't with Charlotte. And Charlotte supposedly is trying to give him some time to, get himself together before he returns, where they play the Lakers. That's their first game back. So something to kind of keep an eye on, which I think is going to be very interesting. But then also Dalton Knecht had to come back as well. He ends up, going and playing his first game, and he was great in that game. And then he's looked really good during NBA All-Star Weekend, but a lot of the conversation and narrative has been on that trade, right? And he's talked about it, and I think he's handled it very well, right? He's talked about, hey, this is one of the few cases in NBA history where, I've had to actually come back, right? And I have to play, and it's just and I'm mixed with emotions, and I just got traded, and, he's not happy, he wasn't, thrilled, right? But he's got to move on. I mean, that's what he talked about. And he said even the best advice that he got was from D'Lo. He said D'Lo called him after the whole thing and just kind of told him hey, you got to move on. Forget about it. Don't let it get to you. Basically just ball out, essentially, which is something that, all of us have talked about as well, right? We've had those conversations about hey, the best way to prove it, right, is you just ball out and you make yourself undeniable, right? You go out there, oh, you wanted to trade me? Watch. And boom. But, couple things. One, I do think it's very, very good chance Dalton Knecht gets traded in the offseason. I do think that, one, do the Lakers look at, it's one of their best assets. And the Lakers are going to do what's best to build the contender around Luka, right? And one of the reasons why they said that they wanted to trade him was because he's their ninth guy. And they're not wrong. He is their ninth guy right now. I do believe he can get there. I do believe he can be one of the better guys on this roster at some point. But also, does he get the opportunity to grow and develop on the Lakers? And two, is he ever going to be more than just a spot-up three-point shooter? I'm not saying that's all he is, but on the Lakers, that's very likely what he's ever always going to be, right? Just that off-ball movement shooter, catch-and-shoot three-point guy. Is he going to get the opportunity to show what he can do with his bag and be able to just, self-create and do all those other things we've seen him do? Can he improve defensively? Because he's been atrocious defensively. Literally, he's been one of our worst defenders, if not our worst defender. He is, statistically speaking. But, obviously, again, he's a rookie. He's one of the few guys in this league, though, that on the bright side can just light it up. Right? How many times have we seen him go 0 of 4 from 3, and then all of a sudden he's 6 of 10? And you're like, dude, this guy just hit 6 straight threes, right? And just completely change a game, completely take over a game with the shooting. It's so much fun to watch. As he had his roller coaster of a season, of course, right? Everybody does. He's a shooter. That's what happens, right? Steph Curry, wasn't that long ago, had probably the worst stretch of a superstar ever. And he's considered the greatest shooter. He is the greatest shooter, but, he's considered by most the greatest shooter ever. And he's even had these bad stretches, right? These bad, a week where he just, 4 or 5 games where he just can't find a bucket. And, that's why I'm not very critical on Dalton Knecht. Why I don't really talk about Dalton Knecht too heavily, but I'll talk about everyone else on the roster because I understand he's a rookie. He's going to have his hiccups. I want to give him the opportunity to progress and show what he's able to do. Also, I understand the type of role and fit on this team and what he's limited on this team to be. Right? He's not able to, if he was on a team like Charlotte. I think on Charlotte, you would see a completely different Dalton Knecht, right? Because he'd be able to do more. He'd be able to kind of get in his bag and self-create and get into the mid-range and beat guys off the dribble and do all that stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if you were like, wow, where's all this been? If he was on a team like the Charlotte Hornets. But, question obviously I want to pose to all of you, and I want to hear your thoughts and opinions, so let me know down in the comments, is, should the Lakers keep Dalton Knecht? And I don't think anyone is untradeable, right? Talk about this all the time. Right? Even LeBron. If tomorrow the Spurs hit their head and were like, hey, we'll trade you Victor Wembanyama for LeBron James, you would do that all day, right? There's obviously scales and levels to these things, but he's a guy that, no one is really, there's 2 untradeable guys in the league, truly untradeable guys, right? And then even from the role player standpoint and stuff like that, right? I think that there's scales. I think now with Luka, Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt become a lot more like to the untradeable ceiling than guys like a Dalton Knecht, guys like a Austin Reeves even. Why? Because you don't have anyone else that can do what those two guys do at the scale and level in which they can do it on the defensive side. Luka's going to be your engine. Offensively, you're not going to have any issues. But the problem is defensively. And now, obviously, if you could turn Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt into, like a clear upgrade or that guy, or if you were able to turn Austin Reeves into that, and then, like an OG, just namesake, right? That people would know, like an OG, and it's like, okay, well now Dorian Finney-Smith and Vandal become a little more expendable, then maybe we're talking. But just as the team is currently constructed right now, which I imagine is going to look very different come the offseason, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they do and revisit that Mark Williams trade and Dalton Knecht and Mark Williams just essentially get swapped, right? Maybe the Lakers throw in like a pick swap or something like that. I do think that that's still a very real option out there. I would love to keep Dalton Knecht, right? I think he's the kind of guy you need alongside Luka, right? Just a dead-eye three-point shooter, a guy that can just light it up and light it up in a hurry, right? But he needs to improve defensively, and you could argue you already got that in Quincy Olivari, right? Like, if you just want again, a shooter, which, again, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that that's all Dalton Knecht is. I believe he can do a lot more. I believe he can be a lot better than he's been. I just think, again, on the Lakers, right, where you're at is very important, right? Like, so many people talk about, Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jay Huff, and these guys weren't doing that. Like, how come we didn't? Because we were in a very different situation. Grizzlies last year were in full tank mode. So they just let Scottie Pippen Jr. and Jay Huff play 30, 35 minutes a night and just stink up the joint because it was fine. And guess what? They had games where they looked great. And, games where Scottie Pippen Jr. is giving you a triple-double or a near triple-double. It just looks like, wow, this guy is really good. Right? But you don't hear about all the bad games. You don't hear about the games where he had, 8 turnovers and 2 assists with 2 points and was 2 of 12 from the floor. Like, you don't hear about the bad games. You only hear about the good games. So everyone goes like, oh man, like we really dropped the ball there. And it's like, no, he never would have gotten the opportunity on the Lakers. Right? He went to the right situation at the right time. Again, Dalton Knecht on a team like Charlotte, he'll get more opportunity. He'll get more development. He'll be be better overall. It's why you see more often than not, guys end up going from the Lakers to another team. And it's like, wow, this guy was really good. I mean, like Lonzo even before injury, right? It was like, man, this guy can't shoot. He can't do this, can't do that, right? A really good defensive guy, make plays. And then he became like a 45% three-point shooter and completely changed the landscape for the Bulls and then went down with injuries, unfortunately. But, and even guys like, Larry Nance and Josh Hart and Julius Randle and all these guys, right? It's like, man, like none of the, they weren't doing the things. Like Julius Randle wasn't an all-star. He was like, we let him go because he was bad, right? Like, and then he goes to a team like the Knicks. Again, right situation, right environment, right, opportunity. And guys can turn it around. And that's what I think you'll see with Dalton Knecht if he were to get traded. I would love to keep him. I just don't think the Lakers are going to, is the question, right? And, I do think it really boils down to how well Dalton Knecht plays these next 30 games. Because they can't trade him now, right? So if you're going to trade him, it's going to be in the offseason, right? So I think chances are it's going to be predicated on how well he performs right now. Problem is, I don't think he's going to play in the playoffs, right? Which is where the dilemma lies. But, obviously we still got to see what happens with the Mark Williams situation. I know a lot of people think it's over. It's technically not yet. Again, Mark Williams isn't playing. If Mark Williams keeps saying he doesn't want to play, don't be shocked if Charlotte does file the appeal. But time will tell, right? We'll see how that plays out. I would love for them to keep keep Dalton Knecht, but I think don't be shocked if he's traded in the offseason. I know a lot of people don't want him to be traded. They're not going to just trade him just to trade him. And look, he wants to stay. He's made it clear, right? Like that, he'd prefer to be with the Lakers and stay with the Lakers and stuff like that. And I do think him alongside guys like Luka could go a long way. He's a rookie. He has a lot of room for growth, development, upside potential, right? It's just, will he get that with the Lakers is the question. And will the Lakers be patient enough to kind of let that develop? But like I mentioned earlier, be undeniable. right? If you're so good, team like the Lakers are like, man, we can't trade this guy, right? Like then there you go, right? If he's just lighting up the league these next 30 games and just shows like, hey, that didn't affect me, that didn't bother me, nothing. Again, like things change really quickly. But time will tell. We'll see. But again, however you feel, as always, this is a discussion. I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? If it were your thoughts, do you agree with me? Do you think, like, yeah, chances are he's probably going to get traded? Do you think, no, like, you know, they need to keep him, they're going to keep him around? Do you think that he'll be undeniable? You know, what again, do you think that the Lakers should keep Dalton Knecht, or do you think that, like, no, you should look to move him, right, for the right piece, for the right player? Again, if you can get, like, if we could get Jalen Duren in the offseason, sorry, Knecht, love you, but you're gone, right? I just think it depends. Like, again, no one, in my opinion, is untradeable. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.